Nice pass.
1978 is when I broke my back in an auto accident. And it was a complete injury, means complete severance of the spinal cord within the spinal column. So it was completely cut, which made it a complete injury, which has paralyzed me from the waist down. The rehab center I went to at Craig Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado, they're the ones that introduced me to wheelchair basketball at that time. My idea was to move someplace where they had wheelchair basketball, and I decided to come down to Phoenix, Arizona, play wheelchair basketball down here. And when I got here, I found out there was no organized team. There was just a bunch of guys playing together at Arizona State University. I wanted to play competitively, and I moved down here with the idea of doing that. So I went to Banner Hospitals. At that time, it was Good Samaritan Hospital. I went down to the rehab unit and talked to them about getting a team started, and they were on board.
Our involvement has really been since the very beginning. We went to the Suns to introduce the idea of a team that both organizations could sponsor. And at that time, and still holds true today, we felt it was a great way to support in a terrific community involvement.
The Banner Wheelchair Sons program was started in 1987, and I was a player for probably 10 or 12 years of that. And then after that is when I stepped back from playing and I started coaching.
Gary's as old school as he comes, man. He'll rip you a new one and then he'll love you the next second, but he'll let you know how he feels. There's no holding back when it comes to Gary, not at all. Gary's the weight that holds down this whole program.
Coaching, it's an awful lot. It's like coaching the men. They don't need a lot of coaching. They need a lot of reminding. Most of the guys that come to us have gone through a college program someplace, or the new people are coming out. We'll coach those, but a lot of them, they just need some reminders stating, you know, that's not the type of ball player you are, or remember this, how to do this, those type of things. But it's rewarding. A few years ago, we took a team to the national championships. We were 30-1, and we finished second in the nation that year. The following year, we went back again, and that year we finished third in the nation. I have a philosophy. I always try to have two positive things for every negative thing. So you lead with a positive, give them their negative thing, and then a positive ending to keep them going. You got to continue to build them up. A lot of people come to us after an injury with low self-esteem. And by bringing them along, we can build their self-esteem back up.
Basketball changed my life, you know, as tacky as it sounds, you know, before I had basketball, I didn't really know who I was. I didn't know what I was gonna do. And I kind of fell into that spectrum of like the woe is me, you know. I was really negative and I hated the fact that I was in a chair.
From the time that Robbie found out that he had muscular dystrophy and he knew he couldn't ride his bike anymore, prior to that he'd been a really, really active kid. And so for years we tried to find something for Robert to do, and it just seemed like I ran into dead ends everywhere I turned. And if I asked someone if they knew about sports for disabled youth, they would look at me kind of like I had three heads.
My thing was that I couldn't play sports. I'm a big dude, so I always thought, you know, going junior high school, I was like, you know, if I was on the football team, I'd have, you know, the perfect cheerleader girlfriend and all this.
So there was a time in his life where I was very concerned about him. I didn't know what he was going to do with his life because he was so depressed. We had gotten to know the Phoenix Suns Gorilla through our volunteer work with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And the gorilla cannot speak in public, so he always has an assistant that is with him. So at one of the muscular dystrophy events we were at, he said that the gorilla wanted to bring Robbie to a game.
So I got to go down and watch the players warm up, and while I was down there, the gorilla came down and started, fooling around, and he gave me a jersey of my favorite player at the time, who was Sean Marion. And I see the gorilla go down on the floor, and it looks like he whispers something to his ear, and 5 minutes later, Sean Marion's walking over to me, and I don't really remember anything after that.
Paul said to Robbie, if you love basketball so much, why don't you play on our wheelchair team? And so he told Robert that he would email the information to me, and that was how we ended up at the tournament the following week. And it just so happened that the men had a tournament in Mesa, and Robert and I got to go to it and meet Gary.
We went to the gym, the Broad Rec Center, and 2 guys literally just fall down on the floor, like collide and just fall on the ground right at my feet, basically. And one of the guys pops up, goes to the other side of the court, and shoots a 3 and makes it. And that instant, I was like, okay, I got to play this. And my mom is terrified. So we go over, we introduce ourselves to Gary, and my mom's like, I don't know if I can let him do this. And Gary says, well, he's already in a wheelchair. What else is going to happen?
I remember the first time I met Gary kind of chuckling beneath my breath, because here was this shiny bald-headed dude in a wheelchair, and he had cowboy boots on, and I really kind of wondered, to be really honest.
Gary is that person that changed my life. If I wouldn't have met Gary, I wouldn't have played basketball. He was very open and very like, come play, come do this, and it's going to be awesome. And it didn't turn me off, like going to see and thinking that I wasn't going to be good enough.
He had never played wheelchair basketball prior to that. He really wasn't in a wheelchair before that too, so he had to learn the sport of basketball. He had to learn how to use a wheelchair. And also he was dealing with a disability that was getting worse. So all these things working, and he just had a great attitude. He worked hard. He continues to work hard today, and he continues to develop. And what's great about Robbie is the transition is he's a guy that'll give back.
I would say my favorite thing is just that I have more fun coaching than I do actually playing, just because it's more enjoyable. I smile a lot more when I'm coaching them than when I'm, practicing with the guys. That's actually kind of what I'm going to school for. I want to be a teacher, but I also want to coach able-bodied basketball. So for me, once I left the juniors, it was just an opportunity to help, but also kind of get my feet wet in what it feels like to kind of help run a team.
They could be in the darkest hole when they come to basketball that night, but by the time they leave, they're in a different place. And they're feeling a lot better about themselves. That's one thing Robert is good at, is making people feel better about themselves than when they might have come in the room.
All I think about is basketball, and all I really do is play basketball. It's just, I kind of eat, breathe, and sleep it. It's like something I always wanted to do that I never thought I had the opportunity to because I was in a chair. So I've just kind of worked to get as good as I can, and now I'm just playing full-time with the men, trying to hopefully get a scholarship to one of the schools that offer wheelchair basketball.
I've been playing basketball since I was probably like a little kid. I went to private school from 1st grade through 8th grade, and I played on a team starting in 5th grade.
When she went to high school, she came straight in to Skyline here in Mesa, and we pretty much were the basketball family. We really felt like she had the prowess to be a Division I player. She played club ball in high school, was really quite talented. Her baseline shot's kind of always been her best shot, even when she was in grade school. We kind of have a whole knee challenge thing. I mean, my mom's had the surgeries, I've had the surgeries, now both my daughters have had the surgeries.
So I got my first one right before my freshman year of high school started in the summer, and it was really dumb how it happened too. I wasn't even playing like basketball or doing anything like crazy. My brother and I were just like goofing around in the house, just playing around, and my body went one way and my knee didn't, and so I completely dislocated my knee on my left leg. Like my kneecap was like sticking out to the side. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Just after that, it was just like kind of like never the same. So I really didn't try to go play like college basketball because just getting through like my junior and senior year were kind of rough.
full circle, 6 years later, she was volunteering at an event that we sponsor each year called the Junior Varsity Tournament for Disabled Sports for Youth.
And I was there just like volunteering and stuff, and like I've known Gary, my mom and him have worked together like on different projects for with the Spinal Cord Injury Association and stuff, and so like I knew Gary, and he knew I played basketball and stuff. He just never knew that I had knee injuries.
She was an athletic person. She played high school basketball and she trashed her legs or knee and couldn't play stand-up ball anymore. So it took 2 or 3 visits to get her into the chair and even to try it.
I was at one of the practices and I ended up just like hopping in a chair just to kind of like try it out. And I totally like fell in love with playing. Like even though I wasn't like good off at the beginning, I just really loved playing basketball again, and I guess it was just really fun.
And she played with us for about a half a year or 3/4 of a year, and that was enough that the University of Illinois offered her a scholarship to go to school there.
So like that August, I moved out to Illinois and was there for 3 years and played on their women's team there for 3 years. I have definitely encountered people who are kind of like have that like baffled or surprised like look on their face when they're like, wait, how do you play wheelchair basketball when you can walk? And so then I always have to go into like my little story of explaining like how you can be able-bodied and play. Some of the things I find that are funny though is like I'll sit in my ball chair when I'm pushing through airports, and then like I'll stand up at different times and people around will be like, oh, that girl can walk. So I always think that that's always really funny. I've actually had like a lot of opportunities from playing. Like I never thought about playing like college ball, obviously, like after I got all of my knee injuries when I was in high school. So I kind of like shoved that away, and then I started playing wheelchair basketball. Obviously, like I would have never played wheelchair basketball if it wasn't for like Gary and the Banner Wheelchair Sons as a program altogether. Like, I was just like volunteering and helping out, and like that's as far as it was gonna, go for me. But I definitely would have never gone and played for the University of Illinois if it wouldn't have been for the Banner Wheelchair Sons program.
I think all in all, it's been an incredible opportunity for her. Her ability and willingness to want to play in a community team as a volunteer offered her an opportunity to go to nationals. And at nationals, she was recruited by one of the top schools in the country. And I think she was really lucky that one, people saw her ability and her talent, but more importantly, I think people saw her drive. In the meantime, she's able to play back on a community team, so she's kind of able to come back and give back to the people who launched her to be able to go have a college career. So I really see it as a win-win for everybody who's been involved.
1, 2, 3, go!
What are the Banner Wheelchair Sons? We're a wheelchair basketball team.
The Banner Sons have a championship division team, which is the men's professional team, if you will. It's the highest division that there is in the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. There's a women's division, which is separate from that, and the Sons also have a juniors division.
We play NCAA rules. There's no traveling, but after you have 2 pushes on the wheel, you either got to pass the ball, dribble the ball, take a shot. Once you take the third propulsion on the wheel, which could be a backwards pull or a forward push, it would be traveling.
We move a lot faster than people think we can, and we play at a high intensity when people don't expect that. But also, I think the other thing that gets people hooked is, when we collide, you hear it. When you get a basketball chair, you're thinking about, what's going to make me faster, what's going to make me move quicker.
But the wheels are bowed out, and the purpose for that is the chair is much more stable that way with the wheels out. It'll turn much quicker. This chair also has what we call wings on the front of the chair, and this is to keep the defender away from you so they don't hook your chair up. One other thing we use is these are we call them click straps, and so we strap ourselves into the chair, and we can tighten them down like that, but they're actually snowboard bindings.
Wheelchair basketball compared to regular ball is, it's so much different just because, with wheelchairs, obviously space is a huge issue. You can't just walk through chairs, you can't go through people, and with stand-up ball, it's You know, you can cut through lanes, you can get by people, you can make your maneuvers. But with wheelchair basketball, everything's about inches and feet and, you know, where you are on the court.
We have to measure chairs to make sure that the chairs are legal. You have to measure seat rail height, the front of the chair. You have to check for a strap that runs behind the legs of the chair, and that the bumpers on the back of the chair are covered so that if they make contact, they won't hurt anybody.
The element of danger is a lot higher than your average sport, I would say. Just because, I mean, you literally, you have moving parts, you have metal, and there's no pads. I mean, we're not padded up by any means.
We probably have 2 or 3 chairs that break throughout the season.
2 seasons I've cracked 2 chairs. It's intense, it's hard.
A lot of those chair frames are guaranteed for 3 years, 5 years, some for a lifetime, depending on the cost of the chair. So they'll replace the chair, and that's what I mean, the maintenance, maintaining the chairs. Parts break on chairs all the time. Tires wear out, axles wear out, spokes break, all that stuff. The frame is the main component. Upholstery, all that stuff, we have to replace that stuff constantly. We probably anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 a year budgeted for chair repairs.
For wheelchair basketball, you have to have something wrong with like your lower extremities, something that's severe enough that you can't play an able-bodied sport.
The National Wheelchair Basketball Association has a classification system. The more physically able you are, the less severe your disability is, the more points you're going to have, and the fewer of those individuals you can have on the court. So right now there's a classification system between 1, 2, and 3. So the more physically able you are, that is, the less your disability is. If you have a knee injury, severe knee surgery or something along those lines, you're going to be a 3. If you are paralyzed at the waist down, like I am, you're going to be a 2. If you're paralyzed at the chest down, you're going to be a 1. You're only allowed a certain amount of points on the court, and so you can't stack your lineup with a whole bunch of people that have bad knees or something like that.